RhPAP's rural community consultants are like a fuel station for communities. They don't create the gas, they don't build cars, but when communities stop in, the consultants can fill them up with just what they need. They use their network of resources to connect communities with the best mechanic, tow truck driver, and insurance agent. The consultants also go out to rural communities all across the province to deliver that fuel. A range of strategies, tools, and techniques for attracting and retaining health professionals. No, they're not recruiters. And they don't do health service delivery either. What consultants do is provide ideas and research-based strategies for attracting health professionals to rural Alberta. Strategies that have already been proven successful in other areas of the province and even across the country. They also share examples of creative community-developed ideas for retaining the health professionals already practicing in rural communities. So hop on board as the rural community consultants chat about ways to fuel up attraction and retention efforts in rural Alberta.
Well, this is great that some of us could get together today and just sit down and have a real informal chat about our attraction and retention work. And I think particularly just reminding ourselves of what a difference those rural communities that we are connected to and work with can make on healthcare providers and learners who come to their communities.
For me, when I think about living and playing in rural Alberta, it's something that I've done my entire life. So it's not new to me, but I've come to value all the benefits and the perks that living that lifestyle is. Making some lifelong friendships, having the great outdoors to spend time in, having somebody that always has your back. I think for me and my family, that was one thing that kept us rurally for sure. Walking into that little one grocery store in a small town and really being able to get everything you need.
Yep.
And then, maybe even sitting down, getting a piece of pie, homemade pie for maybe $2 and sitting down with a local who's lived there their whole life.
And they actually ask you how you are.
And they care.
And they actually genuinely care.
Yeah. So another thing, I don't know if you guys have ever heard about hidden gems. Is that something communities have shared with you?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Hidden gems are what they want to showcase, and it's not just about the touristy things.
I guess a few that come to mind for me would be, that local swimming hole maybe that used to be the gravel pit, and it's the cleanest place to swim. It might be a local Ukrainian baba that does the best pierogies and cabbage rolls, and you got to get them early or you might not get them in for Christmas,
The farmers market has an apple press, and twice in the fall, they set it up and advertise around town. If you got apples, bring them in and we'll press your apples to make juice.
All of the communities that have amazing walking trails, and people use them not only to walk but also to bike, and they're community meeting spots, right? You can stop and talk with your neighbors.
So one community that has the Lions sponsor $5 swimming, and the whole town basically just vacates to go to this lake, and they all just hang out there. The kids get swimming lessons, and their younger kids go to the park, and it's just sort of a well-kept secret that isn't really a secret among any of the locals.
Let's talk a little bit more specifically about the whole network of attraction and retention support that we give to rural communities. And why is it important that we focus on that work? And why is it important that communities are involved directly in that work as well?
So when we look at attraction and retention, and communities often say, well, why is it important for us to be doing this work? And one of the things that I think of is, as an example, is when a site manager, let's say they're working with the talent acquisition team at AHS, and they're recruiting some nurses to their health center. And if there is no community support on that attraction side, for example, showcasing the community and really giving some examples of the hidden gems that we talked about, and some different opportunities, like, well, you know, these are some places for accommodations, and these are some of the different services that we have, and, you know, some information around the schooling and so forth. So it really helps support that site manager, let them worry about the things that they need to worry about as far as the work piece, and then the community can fill in the rest.
We're often hearing, well, how do we know what works? So RhPAP has been involved in a couple of studies over the last 15 years to talk with health providers, with committee members themselves, with families in the community of healthcare providers. What was it that worked in terms of the attraction and retention that, you know, brought you to rural Alberta and then kept you in rural Alberta? So our latest study in 2019, which was the success factors, looked at a number of communities around rural Alberta and talked to all of those different demographics and groups in a community. And it really reinforced there are some real significant impacts that communities can have on the experiences. So there's 3 domains that were discovered in that study, as you all remember. There's the professional domain, which is really along what you were talking about, Colleen, with the site manager and those people working in the human resource end of health providers in rural communities. But there's the community domain and the family domain. And those are 2 domains that have a lot of opportunities for rural communities to have an impact on the experiences that people have there. So studies have shown us what works. And so those are the strategies that we need to then share with communities.
That's one of the fun jobs that the consultant team gets to do, is we get to be like cheerleaders. We get to go in and help them realize that they do have the capacity and they do have the skills to do this work. And, you know, we're there to provide the resources and the tools and really support them as they start looking at doing some different attraction and retention strategies and what that might look like for their community.
You know, we really are there to support the recruitment efforts that are being carried out by Alberta Health Services and others. And so, to me, attraction and retention are the bookends to that recruitment process. So they hold up and support the recruitment that happens between the two. So they're connected, but we have our specific role on each end of those bookends.
So let's talk about attraction a little bit here and maybe provide a few examples from our communities that have been successful. And so when I think of attraction, I mean, to me, that's the let's get them there. Communities have such a role to showcase their community and why people would consider the work, live, and play piece there.
One of the really great ways for communities to connect in with the people that are interested in the community, they're just kind of looking at it is that locum piece. And if there are locums coming into the community and somebody knows about that, they have that good relationship with the site manager, and they say, yeah, you know what, I know a locum's going to stay here for a week, and somebody in the community says, I want to take them out for dinner, just get to know them. Yeah. And they treat them like a real person. There's no pedestals. They just bring them out and they get to know who they are. What do you enjoy doing? Let me connect you with some people here, make your stay really comfortable, even if it's for a short time or maybe it's an extended period.
That one small gesture may be that icing on the cake to them that went, yeah, you know what? This is where I can see myself. To me, retention is that piece of let's keep them there. We're talking about it's the relationship piece and making sure that they have a sense of belonging.
One of my favorite weeks of the entire year is the Alberta Rural Health Week, and that's just a really great time for communities to show that appreciation. And I think sometimes when someone is not sure how to really understand the idea of retention, I'll sometimes swap out that word with appreciation, because that's really what it is. And it's if you feel appreciated, if you feel connected, plugged in, like you belong, that's when you stay. And so the Alberta Rural Health Week, I mean, I saw all kinds of things. One community brought in a massage therapist and gave just sat in the break room, gave 10-minute massages, neck massages to those who were working really hard. And I mean, I know that was very appreciated, and it was just a nice way to just relax and say, oh, thank you so much. You noticed me, and I think that's a really key piece.
One of the committees I know, they did an appreciation effort where they put thank you to all of our health providers, little signs on the, the wire sticks, and they placed them every, 25 feet, around the walking trails, so that it really sent the message that they really do appreciate their health providers and all that they've done for their community.
Nice.
I think one of the things that we haven't talked about a lot yet today is the whole family piece and how important it is to make sure that the family is being supported. I know of one community, they worked really closely when the candidate was working with the organization that was hiring them. Well, they worked really closely with the spouse and said, okay, what does this, do you need employment? What kind of employment do you do? What about your kids? What grades are they in? What do they do for recreational activities? And, making sure that they can connect them to the different areas of the community as well.
That was a great conversation around not only the attracting, but how to enhance keeping people in the community too once they're there, making sure they're well integrated in, and just the important role that rural communities can play with that. So lots of alludement to the, is alludement a word?
No,
Alluding.
A lot of alluding to the idea that none of this is standalone, that there's a flow or a continuum. So, Alicia, I know you've done a lot of thinking around that whole continuum of the attraction and retention work, and really, what is the pathway to rural?
And what does it really mean to be a learner-friendly community? If you were to define that, what does it look like? Having community members just value those learners and the value that those learners bring. But I think it also extends to having some of those local assets. Maybe it's a library that stays open late. Maybe it's coffee shops with plugins so that they can have that latte and do some of their studying. Even those intergenerational relationships, just fostering that and making sure that that's an important focus in your community. But overall, I really think the most important piece, and I think it could be like even the title of our whole conversation, is that human connection. It's community recognizing those values. It's the warm welcome. It's the plugging in. It's answering questions when somebody says, hey, I'm looking to get my hair cut. Where can I do that? I'm in your community for a little while, and doing a preceptorship.
Quick question. So when you say learner, what does that mean?
So when we think about learners, that might be a medical student, it might be a nursing student doing a practicum in a community, it could be a high school student who's just considering their healthcare career and what that might look like. I remember Dr. O'Connor up in the Wood Buffalo region, he really had some good examples for that homegrown effort.
A young man in Fort Chip who was in the school in Fort Chip when RhPAP had made a presentation and an interaction with the high school kids. And this guy who I knew as a child in Fort Chip. And so he contacted me recently to say that he's now enrolled at in medicine at the U of A. It speaks volumes to what RhPAP does. He will be the first homegrown Fort Chip physician, which I'm thrilled about. And all due to RhPAP.
Colleen, I know you had a really great example of some students that had some really great experiences and then decided rural was for them.
Oh, yeah. That was after one of the post-secondary weekends where the community brought out a busload of med students and nursing students and really showcased their passion of their region, and ended up with one of the nursing students saying, yeah, you know what, I can see myself here. And so she actually took a job there, and her and her husband are living in the area now.
Yeah, I was hearing one nursing student talk about how she had such a great experience in the community, but it went beyond even just the learning, and she said that personal growth for her to be in rural was the best thing she could have done for both her nursing pathway as well as just who who she became as a person coming out the other end of that.
And that's becoming so much more important because we know this younger generation, well, probably the last one as well, has a much better work-life balance. So they're actually saying, what can we do outside of work here? And that's just as important, if not in some cases more important, on choosing a place to actually live and work. So now how do we go out to communities and how do we let them know we're available to them and that we're ready to work with them when they're ready? So maybe Anita, you can kind of walk us through what are those next steps in our work.
So if rural communities are interested in connecting with us, all they need to do is reach out to us. Give us a quick call, an email, or even a chat.
You ready, Bobby?
We're putting on the muscle now.